Anglicanism is basically the English variation of Christianity and has a very British way of doing things. However, most Anglicans are not even English. In fact, most Anglicans now are in Africa. Each country has its own archbishop that rules over their own church. These archbishops are normally a descendant from an English missionary, and this is just one example of how all Anglican churches have some common historical lineage back to England. This again is not run from the top down, but instead each culture has its own decentralised church that are all collectively known as the Anglican Communion, with the Church of England itself only having jurisdiction over England and a couple of other European areas. Although decentralised, they have a common link through the viewing of the Archbishop of Canterbury as their unifying leader. They all also share Anglican beliefs, such as using the Common Book of Prayer. The Anglican Church of the Church of England was not originated by King Henry VIII just so he could remarry, like many historically illiterate people or Anglophobes like to suggest. Its origins in fact predate Henry by about 1,000 years, and Henry just rejuvenated many of its divergences. Because the British Isles are a group of islands, the culture of Italian Catholicism found it harder to maintain cultural dominance here, and many British Christians thought differently. This time of the religion can be vaguely grouped together and known as Celtic Christianity. It had many distinctions from Catholicism, from art to worship. Augustine of Canterbury was then sent over by the Pope to re-strengthen the Catholic Church in the British Isles, and therefore Augustine of Canterbury is seen as a strong figure of Anglicanism, as he brought the British Isles back into the Catholic fold. However, this didn't last forever, and the English people didn't think they should be beholden to the Pope and the corruption in the Vatican, but instead to their king and country. They therefore wanted the King of England to proclaim himself head of the church, which is where King Henry comes into the fold. Henry's succession problems are only one part of the story. Anglicanism is therefore a mix of Protestant, Catholic, Celtic Christianity and Orthodox Christian beliefs, all under the monarch who is the defender of the faith as well as the spiritual leader. Anglicanism is very similar to the English way of spreading its culture. Instead of a top-down centralised system such as in the Catholic Church, where every split becomes a new and separate denomination, Anglicanism has its own devolved and domestic operations all around the world. Although they are all unified by being Anglican, each different culture and nations have a slightly different way of doing things, and this is not discouraged. Anglican believers have a mix of progressive and orthodox values depending on the political and cultural landscape in each country. There are two ways that they do this: through joining the main Anglican Communion or making smaller groups themselves, such as the current Global Fellowship of Confessing Anglicans, although all of them would still consider themselves Anglican, and the general Anglican worshipper may not even be aware of which organisation their church is in. These groups are more to spearhead debate rather than creating new denominations. This makes Anglicanism stronger than any other Christian domination, as it allows for splits without the need to create whole new denominations and religions. It's very similar to how Hinduism works and why Hinduism is so stable, with every family having different beliefs but all still being unified and considering themselves Hindus and part of the same religion. And this is why Anglicanism is the third largest major group of Christians by number of followers, even though it's a relatively new creation. At the moment, the neutral and more progressive believers remain part of the Anglican Communion, while the more conservative and orthodox believers are part of the Global Fellowship of Confessing Anglicans. Many Anglicans, however, just call themselves Christians and don't even know they're Anglicans, and this is quite normal in nations where Anglicanism is the majority religion. Therefore, the split in these nations are normally Catholic or just Christian, meaning Anglican. Be sure to check out my other channel, History Sticks, for the complete, longer and comprehensive video.